The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
Ghost stories,
folklore,
psychics and mediums,
shamanism,
paranormal investigations,
haunted locations, and all that other weird shit.
You're listening to the Traveler's Moon Podcast
with the Paranomad, Chris Nielsen,
and Kelly McCarville, Moonspinner.
Sorry, I had to do that kind of away from the mic. I'm very excited.
I think we're live.
I think we're live.
This is scary.
What's up, guys? This is the Travis Moon Podcast. This is fun.
Hello. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Like Chris said, this is the Traveler's Moon Podcast. This is our premiere episode. Dun, dun, dun.
So it's either going to be fantastic from here, or it's either the low point or as good as it's going to get for us. So no pressure.
Well, we've both done this before, so you would think that it won't be a completely horrible first start, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Set your expectations really low.
So when the show's awesome, you can be like super excited.
We're going to go with that. All right, guys. Well, for anybody who's tuning in who has not heard of us before, we are going to start out the show just kind of by introducing ourselves. For those of you who have followed us and supported us, thank you guys. We love you guys. Some of this is going to be repeat for you, but hopefully you'll hang in there with us. So,
on the plus side, so we thought it'd be good to have like kind of a, how we each individually started and how we've come together as a team, which are stories we probably shared at least 30 times each, which means they're very well rehearsed, which means this is going to sound fantastic.
All right. Did you want to start first?
Yeah, I suppose. Hi, everybody. I'm the Paranomad, Chris Nielsen. I am
Wait. What was the voice that just started there? What was that all about?
So you remember those, like, dating videos from, like, the 80s, 90s? I was kind of going for that kind of vibe.
So, phone porn.
Yeah. It's my radio voice.
Okay. All right. Carry on.
Sweet
Carry on.
No, so I am a paranormal investigator of going on 12 years now, and I don't know. Part of what makes us a cool team, we'll kind of go into depth with that a little bit later, is that we are very different in a lot of ways. So it's kind of a yin yang sort of relationship, but. For anybody who knows Kelly, she's got like the whole like medium thing going on. I actually started with none of that. I teeter more towards the actual like stereotypical paranormal investigator backstory, where growing up, my grandparents' house to this day is one of the most haunted places I've ever been, and I've got a pretty big radius on me now, plenty of locations, and to this day, it's one of the most haunted things I've ever experienced. And when I was about 8 years old, I first saw a little boy on the stairs of their house, and it just kind of turned into a lifelong fascination. And, growing up, I started kind of getting into the ghost stories. And then when I was about 16, I got into actually researching paranormal investigation, going out and, checking out kind of creepy places. This carried over into just after high school. I co-founded my first paranormal team at the age of 18 with my dad.
You're just a baby.
I was just a young man. That was only like 10 years ago. And yeah, we did our thing for quite a while, and then I ended up kind of having a not so spooky regards, but I had kind of a life change, and I actually I was living in Cedar Rapids. I ended up getting rid of my apartment, kind kind of getting rid of, 50, 75% of my belongings, and I lived on the road for about 4 or 5 years. Just kind of, hanging out. And once that happened, I kind of started slowing my ties with All Out Paranormal just because I wasn't around it all, and I started going under the title The Paranomad because it was just me. I still wanted to get out there, do my paranormal stuff, but I wanted to be under a different brand, if that makes sense. So I, did my traveling ghost hunt thing, and over the last year or so, it's been a couple of years now. We've really started spending a lot of time investigating together. Yeah. But it turns out if you hang out with weird enough people, the weird will eventually rub off on you.
He's talking about the rest of y'all. Can't possibly be talking about me.
So yeah, I started to kind of find my woo woo, and once a young man finds his woo woo, he just doesn't stop playing with it.
You'll go blind.
Kelly, I'm over here. It's a really bad joke. But over the last few years, I've been kind of developing my own psychic abilities. I'm pretty good at seeing shit now, which is convenient because allegedly, she's going to say a lot of times she doesn't see anything. A whole bunch of bullshit.
But there's truth to that. I don't see things usually unless I'm with you. And then I see a few things.
That's why I'm rubbing off on you too now.
I'm not sure how I feel about all that.
It's not too bad. I don't get used to it. But yeah, it's been almost kind of a hard left turn. I started off with, being gizmos, gadgets, black t-shirts, and trying to be like the people on TV to kind of being me now.
And then you decided you wanted to be a real investigator? Oh.
I mean, people on TV can be real investigators.
There are some really good ones on TV.
I said my black t-shirt, it was a reasonable size. It wasn't super tight, and I wasn't trying to fight ghosts in the dark, so I'm going to be like some of the people on TV. But no, now I'm kind of doing my own thing as I don't know, I always tread lightly because I always say I'm like a paranormal investigator, but I do more than that now.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
and it's hard. It's hard to put yourself in a box and say, this is what I am. These are my titles that I fall into, I'm
a medium psychic.
Medium psychic. Yeah. Yeah.
Also gotten into to shamanism over the last year or so, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I still participate plenty in the tech stuff. Somebody's got to carry that weight of this particular team.
And it ain't going to be me. I am technology challenged.
So yeah, I kind of got one foot in both sides of this world, if that kind of makes sense. So, I do the tech stuff still, but I'm also pretty woo-woo.
Alrighty.
So what about you?
Yeah. So those are some pretty big shoes to follow on, but I'll see what I can do. So I am, I'm a paranormal investigator, obviously, but I am also a psychic medium. And I was, we were kind of kidding earlier that, where do I start? I was born. But, the truth of the matter is I was born with abilities. My primary ability is called claircognizance, and that simply means that I know things that I have no reason to know. And when I was a little girl, I guess I was doing it and just didn't realize that I was doing it. I assumed that everybody knew things the way that I knew things, and would know before the phone rang that somebody was calling, or would get in the car and know where we were heading when it was a big surprise, and didn't realize that wasn't a normal thing. I don't remember it having a huge impact on my life. Now, Mama Pat will tell you I messed with her plans on occasion, but I don't remember it having a huge impact on my life when I was young. But middle school is when my abilities really started coming back pretty hardcore. I'm an empath as well. And so, I was in middle school and I was having all my hormonal issues and surrounded by people having all their hormonal craziness. And it just kind of came back hard, just overwhelmingly. And I needed to figure out what was going on with me. And was I crazy, or was there something really going on? And I was lucky enough to have an amazing mother who has always been super supportive of all of this. And she, when I talked to her about it, she said, okay, let's figure this out. I'll help, So we started doing, I always say we started doing research, but to be fair, Mama Pat's a walking encyclopedia. That woman knows so much stuff. And so she knew a lot about things, and she'd always had an interest in the paranormal and the psychic medium and stuff like that. So she knew a lot already, but we started doing research and started finding groups that could kind of help me figure out what was going on with me and develop my abilities more. I was probably in my early 20s when I started doing readings for people. And at this point, they were still just psychic readings. And this is where those titles fall in. I hate that word. I hate psychic. I hate that word. But started doing psychic readings for people in my early 20s and had really good luck with it. Had a lot of really positive feedbacks, which was fun. And about the time that, I should go back to middle school, about the time that all my abilities started coming back, we also moved. It was me and my sister and my parents lived in this little bitty house, and it was time for us to have more room. So we moved across town and moved into a haunted house. Yeah. So the paranormal side of things started coming in right about that time too, because there were people in the house that we could sense and feel, and they'd move things and we could hear them. And it really did kind of spike the paranormal aspect of things as well. But so I would go out and do how everybody probably starts, the silly little paranormal investigations, which means I went out to someplace scary and see if I could scare myself, right? We'd go sit out at we had a farm out in the country, and Mom and I and friends would go sit out at our farm and just spook ourselves basically. But we started out just kind of doing that sort of paranormal investigating, and I'm air quoting, you guys can't see that, but decided I wanted to start taking that a little more seriously. And it was funny because at the time I started doing all of this, I knew that I had abilities by that time. But when I went to investigate, I still went in scientifically. I shut all that down, and I wouldn't let myself use those abilities. I wanted to use the recorders and the meters and all of that. And it wasn't until, I don't even know what year it was. One of these days I'm going to have to go back and figure out what year it was that I went and did my first investigation as a psychic medium. But yeah, I started out at Edinburgh Manor, of all places, doing psychic medium investigations. Psychic investigations at that time. I hadn't turned on the medium side of it yet. But figured out that it was very helpful to have both of those, as long as you kept an appropriate amount of guard up on things. Eventually, as I was doing readings and my abilities continued to grow, the medium side of things started coming in. And I wasn't necessarily on board with it, if I'm being very honest. Being a medium scared me, because the things that you have to go off of is people who are like, oh, they're talking to me constantly, and there's these messages I have to pass on to people. And it sounded like it was this constant bombardment of messages for people and spirits pestering you all the time. And I'm like, I didn't want that. So when the messages started coming through, wanted or not, from people who had passed, I needed to figure out what to do with that. And so I kind of set up a system with my helpers from when I'm doing readings to where I could be comfortable doing that. And ever since then, I've been a medium and have been talking to dead people too. Been investigating for quite a while, going in and out of homes and commercial locations. And then, we've investigated together for years on and off. I mean, we've been friends for a lot of years. And like Chris said, it was probably about 2 years ago that we started just seriously going everywhere together, it seems like. Because we figured out that we work really, really well together. And it's not just that he has the technical side of things and I have the woo-woo side of things, because I can hold a piece of equipment if it doesn't break when I pick it up. But
She doesn't hold the pieces of equipment.
not the expensive ones. This is true. But yeah, he can see what I can't, and I can hear what he can't. And we just had a really good method of working together. And fast forward 2 years, here we are. Traveler's Moon. Yeah.
Well, I didn't kill nearly enough time.
Feel like I rambled on forever. So I know that you mentioned, did you go into detail? Because I admit I wasn't fully listening. I was posting our show.
I was listening to you.
I know you weren't busy. I was. Did you tell him the episode you had at your grandma's?
The what?
The episode that you had at your grandma's with the little guy?
Yeah.
You went into details about that?
Not full detail, but...
Well, I knew you'd mentioned. That's what I was asking. I was going to ask you, so how did you fully get into the paranormal?
That I did go over.
Okay. See, I wasn't paying attention.
I was paying attention to you.
But,
And now I'm hurt.
I was working.
I was too, actually. So, another reason we work fantastic as a team is at least one of us can multitask.
I can multitask. I just was not listening to you in my multitasking. I love you. Yeah, so let's talk maybe about some of the places we've gone to investigate. And
Yeah, I figured this could be just kind of a general story time. So, it doesn't have to be...
And honestly, guys, sorry I'm interrupting him. If you guys have questions for us, I know a lot of you guys already know us, but if you guys have questions for us or just want to hear something from us again, please feel free to post it in chat for those who are in chat. And we'll see if we can't get around to answering those questions for you guys. So, all right, go ahead, sorry.
God, interrupting me and ignoring me. This is a sad first show for
Oh.
No, so I figured we go into a little bit of kind of what we've been doing the last couple of years. So out of recent investigations, where it's been you and I, what one would you say has been your favorite?
Oh, man. That's hard because I think we have different favorites for different things, I mean, so like the best evidence that we've caught on camera lately, I think, is that episode that we had out at Cambry where something flicked your hoodie string, So that was a favorite investigation, and we just had really good Estes method responses there. But doing some investigating at Mackinac Island was phenomenal for its own reasons, It's so hard to say which one. I don't know. Do you have a favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite. Mackinac Island was definitely cool. That was my first time investigating a drowning pool.
Oh my
Which
gosh, that was
interesting.
so crazy. So we were going to Mackinac Island, and we wanted to check out the haunted spots, so we started doing a little bit of research, which normally if we know where we're going, we won't research the location ahead of time, but in this case, we knew we were going to the island. We just didn't know what we wanted to hit on the island, and it was a big island, so we did do a little bit of research. And I stumbled across a witch's drowning pool on Mackinac Island, of all places. I was shocked. It's this little, 8 square miles or something?
It's less than that.
Yeah, maybe it's 8 miles if you walk all the way around it. 8 miles sticks in my head for some reason. But it's just this tiny little island, and it's a tourist, and it's all pretty and gorgeous, and you wouldn't expect there to have been murders on that island, but there was. And so we figured out sort of where this drowning pool was before we got there. And then one of the days we got up and that's what we decided we were going to do, is find this pool. And yeah, you found it.
We're good at finding things.
Yeah. And he's a trooper, guys. So the story of this drowning pool is, it's like a tide pool. It's right on Lake Erie.
Is it Huron?
I can't remember which one that's on. We should know this.
Mackinac, because the Mackinac Island show between Huron and Superior.
I have no idea. It's one of those big ones. One of those Great Lakes up north. Yeah. It's right along the edge of the lake, and it's a tide pool. And you can walk out into the water a little ways, and it's not very deep, but then all of a sudden it just drops off. And that's where they drown these witches, or these supposed witches, is when they got to that drop off, they drop them in there, and that's where they died. And so, yeah, Chris was a trooper. I mean, it wasn't exactly warm.
I had to see where it dropped off. Like, you could, like...
And we weren't sure it was the right thing, because all we could see was a puddle of water, a big puddle of water, Don't get us wrong. But, I mean...
Maybe 50 yards across.
Wasn't that big, you think?
Maybe a little less.
Yeah, maybe 30 yards across. Maybe, I don't know. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't a puddle.
Bigger than a puddle, smaller than a second possible lake.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. So you couldn't really tell how deep it was, and we weren't sure we had found the right place. So it wasn't exactly warm, but he rolls up his pant legs and he starts walking off into this water. Now keep in mind, guys, at some point, if we're in the right spot, there is this vast drop off, and he's just walking out.
I found it. I didn't completely submerge myself, but I found it. It was maybe 5 or 6 feet out, and from what I could tell, and by what I could tell, I mean how far I could make a big stick go down. It was maybe 8 feet deep. So
yeah,
it was interesting.
Yeah, that was a fun experience, though. Because how many people visit that island and know nothing about that and don't think to go looking for that?
And most of the weird people.
Mm-hmm. We fall into the weird people category, I'm sure. Yeah, Mackinac was a good one. I
was also a fan of Spook Cave.
Yeah.
Spook Cave was a good one. I a couple of years ago hosted an event out there, and yeah, my thing is I love when the investigation has some sort of sense of adventure to it, if that makes sense. So like Mackinac Island, we were out and we were like, we're looking for this, pond, drowning pool, whatever it is, but we're actually out there and we're searching for it, and we're actual boots on the ground, and that was kind of the fun of Spook Cave as well.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, it is about a half mile into a bluff deep cave in northeast Iowa, and the investigation just had a lot of cool aspects to it. There was an outside section where we were trying to communicate more with native spirits, because northeast Iowa has a lot of sacred ground to it, and history research had shown that at some point during the history of the area, because we're awesome white people, we dug up a bunch of burial grounds for part of this campground. Or it wasn't a campground, it was a town that had originally been there. Flooded twice, 21 people died, so it was that kind of weird haunted history aspect to it. But then there was also taking a boat a half mile into a cave.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
And it's super cool. I mean, we've investigated a lot of places, but to be able to investigate a flooded cave, that is just, it's an amazing experience. And I think the thing that I found the most interesting is, I mean, you had always told me, so full disclosure, I mean, he was a tour guide up at Spook Cave, so he'd run tours in the cave all the time. And he would tell me that there were always people talking in the cave. You could hear them talking all the time. And I just assumed that you meant once in a while you'd hear something like talking. That's not at all what this is. It's from the moment you go into the cave until you leave, there's constant talking. And it's it's water EVPs. That's what it is, and it's phenomenal. You can't always make out what they're saying, but you can tell that there's people talking, males, females, children, young, old. It's so cool.
The guy in the back, I'm pretty sure he's drunk because he always kind of sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely one that sounds weird at the back. And the female that's back there then too. But just got really, it's a very cool place. If the damn plague ever clears up, I'm sure we'll be talking to Spook Cave about running some tours up there again. But, I was thinking as you were talking, probably one of my favorite, and I don't know that I even want to say it was investigations, but just experiences would probably be being able to take you to the Mason House for the first time. Because that is one of my favorite places, like, ever. And I've gone there since I was super young. And we've been there a million times, and we always have so many experiences there, and that's my family. All these spirits that are down at the Mason House, they're my family. So it was like getting to take you home and introduce you to my family, So that was a cool one, just to be able to say, this place you've heard me talk about a million times, come experience this with me. So I don't know, I'd say almost that maybe. No, I can't say that's my favorite. I don't know. See, it's just, there's so many different reasons why different things are my favorite. Anyways.
During that time, we did have a surplus of questions in the comment section. So we'll start off with Darren, because
Mr. Darren, we love Darren and his question.
Oh yeah, thank you, Derek Bear. So the question is, and this is kind of a two-parter, what insane asylum would you not go into if there is such a thing? And what one are you dying to go to?
For me, I don't know that there's any that I would say that I wouldn't go to. Yeah, I can't really think of any that I wouldn't go to. I would love to get into
Trans-Allegheny Asylum.
Yes, would love to get into there. There's a lot of places that I mean, it wasn't an insane asylum, but the island where they sent all the sick people.
You mean Pavilion?
Is that it?
In Italy?
That too.
Oh,
I thought there was
yes. Well, I mean, it was very common throughout history to send people to islands. But
maybe that's probably the one I'm thinking about.
But that was a plague thing.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, I've seen it.
Yes.
I didn't get to go, but I've seen it.
He sucks. So we were supposed to go to Waverly, which again is an insane asylum. It was a tuberculosis sanatorium, but
sanatorium comes from sanitize, not sanity.
Yeah. I have been to Penhurst. That was phenomenal. That was a really cool place. We'll have to get back there sometime too. Yeah, but Trans-Allegheny I think is probably at the top of my list.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's actually a remarkably easy question.
Places I'd want to go. From Mr. Darren again. I'm sorry, did you?
Oh no,
was that your answer too?
That was pretty, straight across the board.
Look at me just answer the question and move on. So what piece of it moved? What piece of equipment to you is a waste of time? Ooh, that is a new question.
That's okay. So that's honestly an interesting question. So as the equipment guy, I don't. So I'll hit this in a two-part question. So what things have I seen people use on investigation that's a waste of time? Entertainment-based apps like Ghost Radar, that sort of thing, just because they're designed for entertainment, and it's weird how, and it's not so much anymore, and I don't know if it's just the circles I'm running in these days, but it was one of those surprisingly frequent things where I saw a lot of people being like, hey, this Ghost Radar thing, talking about dead uncle and all this bizarre stuff, when it says in the disclaimer that, this is made for entertainment purposes.
But I think if you look at most apps, you're probably going to find that somewhere, because unfortunately, we live in a world where somebody will find a reason to sue somebody if it doesn't say it's for entertainment only, you know? So I do think, and not saying that Ghost Radar is something, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Ghost Radars, it's fun, but that's pretty much all it is.
So yeah, as far as an actual piece of equipment, I wouldn't say that there is anything that's on its own a waste of time, just because I feel like most things that are kind of valid or have shown some form of result, that's, a little piece of the puzzle figuring this out, so I wouldn't call it a waste of time. But for me personally, equipment that I wouldn't use are things like EM pumps, things like that, just because, investigators have been on investigation, turned on an EM pump, and giving EVP is something to the effect of it's burning, like it's overload for the spirits in the area. So anything that's not pleasant for them is something I wouldn't ever use.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing, and again, I don't know that I can think of any particular piece of equipment that I don't think is beneficial ever, but I think it depends on the location where you're at if certain things are going to be beneficial. Because, like, you can go into a location that just has a naturally high EMF reading, and in that case, you might as well just throw out your EMF readers because you're going to constantly have a false reading.
But I feel like the same argument could be made for our own senses at that point, because if you go into a place that's constantly chock full of EMF, you're going to get the side effects of EMF overexposure, which, ironically enough, it's the exact same thing most people report in haunting, those kind of weird feelings and hair sitting on end.
Right. But if you're someplace that or like if you're outside and it's super windy, well, a recorder isn't going to work because if the wind's going to interfere. So anytime that there's contamination to the pieces of equipment that you're going to be using, that would make it not worth maybe using that piece of equipment. But I don't know that there's any that I can just say, oh God, I'd never use that I can think of. So kind of it still goes with equipment. Nico's saying, what do we think about experiments? Do you guys need equipment?
Oh my gosh, I'm a huge experiment guy. I'm always kind of concocting different ways of approaching situations on investigations. A lot of those come through in the form of, I call them experiments, but I don't know if they're actual experiments because I'm not utilizing the scientific method in any stretch of the imagination. But things like recently we did crack and dangle at the Cambria House and Farm, which is an experiment is always tough because in my mind I start thinking of the actual, putting the scientific method use, which is not necessarily possible in this field. So I look at it as more of kind of a unique way of approaching situations. So at the Cambria House and Farm, there's this little girl, Eglantine, and she likes to play with swingy things. So in an effort to give her something to play with, we hung 20 glow sticks from the ceiling of her room and give her something to play with.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as experiments go, definitely. And I think the equipment is almost essential when it comes to those sort of things, because there's something to the quote unquote science aspect, the technology based parts of the investigation. There's also something to what we experience with our abilities. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important to utilize both to figure out what the bridge between those two things are.
Yeah. And my answer is kind of double-sided. So hang in there with me, guys. Do I think that we need equipment to have experiments? No. I think you can do the experiments without them. You can go and see what kind of interaction you can have and use the senses that we're born with to see what we sense, feel, taste, hear, whatever the case may be. But the thing about it is I can come back out of a room trying to communicate with a spirit or prove that there's a spirit in that room and come out and say, hey, Chris, this is what I experienced. This is what I felt, saw, hear, whatever. And all he has to go off of is just my word. When you put the equipment in the mix, then you have something to back up those experiments, because then I can say, okay, I felt that at this time there was a little girl that came up and stood beside me. Well, if at that exact time there's an EMF spike or a temperature drop, or there's a blur on the camera, or there's an EVP, all of that is going to back up the experience that I had. So I don't think you have to have it to have an experiment, but it's just an experience. It's not something that you can...
It's more experiential than an actual experiment.
Right.
Because experimenting requires documentation.
Yeah, so that's where I think you have to have that equipment to back it up.
I suppose it's like, so this is... you're either going to follow me with this or you're not. Some people experiment with drugs. And nobody's documenting that, but you call it experimenting with drugs, so I kind of see how the definition can be loose with that sort of thing.
Way to go. But it's... I get the question a lot because I am a psychic medium, and that's how I primarily investigate. So I had a lot of people ask me, oh, so you don't use any equipment then, do you? And I'm like, no, I absolutely take equipment with me because I want to be able to see when I'm having these experiences what else is going on, because it's not only proving that the equipment is doing something, but it's adding validity to the things that I'm experiencing too. It's adding that it makes both sides of the data that's been gathered more valid if you can have it coming from both the scientific and the woo-woo side of things. So, long answer for a short question, but yeah. All right, moving on here. From Mama Deb, have you had circumstances where having abilities was a disadvantage in an investigation?
Thus far, I wouldn't... So whenever I have an experience, and I don't necessarily, and I think this is part of why I don't like latching on the term psychic or anything like that, is because I don't have abilities. I just don't have as many filters up as a normal person. I think most people can do this. I think it's just tricky for some people to allow themselves to do it. But anytime I've ever had a experience, it's never been a disadvantage. It's been a bit much at times, but I've never really walked away from a situation where I got to have an interaction and didn't think of it as advantageous. I've always come away from it as it was very cool. And maybe it's just the glutton for punishment in me that kind of makes myself think that way. But I've had some kind of genuinely scary experiences, and I didn't ever think of it as anything other than advantageous. I always had fun with it. It was always a good time. It was honestly kind of a blessing in a way that, I had the opportunity to experience that.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would say that I think of it as a disadvantage. It has been inconvenient, and I would, so let me answer the question directly first. The biggest disadvantage I would say is if I'm out investigating with a group of people and they're hearing what they think they hear through the spirit boxes or getting a sense of feeling about this, that, or the other thing, and I know they're wrong, that's a disadvantage, because then my options are speak up and tell them they're wrong and everybody scowls and hates me, or stay quiet and not stick up for the spirit who's sharing their story with me. So that's the only place I would say it's a disadvantage. But it can be inconvenient because, I can go into places and, anybody who's been on an investigation with me has seen this. I lose complete focus. When I'm listening to them, I space out, and the people who are used to it see it in my face. I don't know what I do, but they're like, she's listening to something. She's talking to somebody, and I don't hear what's going on around me. Also, a lot of times when I'm doing my initial walkthroughs through a place, I'm feeling it and hearing it, and I'm walking around with my eyes closed. So I've walked into a lot of walls and a lot of things. So that's a disadvantage. But, the inconvenience, I was kind of laughing while you were sharing your story because it was reminding me, there was an investigation I was supposed to go on with a team, and I ended up being sick that night. I had just a horrible sinus infection, so I ended up not going. And I'm laying at home on the couch, dying, dripping stuff out of every hole in my head. My eyes were watering, my nose was running, I was sneezing, I couldn't hear. I was miserable. And we'd been to this location once, and this was just to kind of do a walkthrough. This would have been like our second full investigation that I wasn't able to go on. And so I'm laying there, and this guy comes up, a spirit comes to me. He's like, they're getting this all wrong. They're blaming everything on me. I need you to go tell them that it's not me. And I'm like, I'm sick. Leave me alone. They'll figure it out. Well, he just kept pestering. You have to go and tell them. They're blaming everything on me. I'm not the one that's hurting her. You need to go and tell them that it's not me. And I think I even messaged them. And he's just like, they're not listening to you. You have to go down there. And he just was not going to leave me alone. And so finally I threw clothes on, drove the half hour down to the location where they're at. And I walked in the door and I'm like, everybody sit down. I've got 10 minutes to tell you what I'm telling you. And it was, but he wasn't going to leave me alone until I went and did what he was telling me to do, because he was getting blamed for some pretty rotten stuff that wasn't him. And he didn't want that, which I get. But dude, I was sick. So yeah, I don't know that I'd say it's a disadvantage ever.
Except you can't sleep places.
Yeah.
When you go to places like Malvern, we've got to go get a hotel because she can't actually.
Yeah, and that's not because of the
That's
spirits.
not necessarily an investigation. That's
Yeah, and it's not because I'm scared the spirits are going to hurt me. It's not because I'm even worried about my safety or any of that. It's that Malvern is such a busy location that they're constantly talking. They're constantly talking. So for me to try to sleep, it's not going to happen, because when I'm sleeping, naturally my guards come down and I'm going to hear it all, and then I'll never sleep. So yeah, there's locations that
are too loud.
It's too loud.
And I get that sometimes on locations where maybe there's too much to be seen.
Yeah.
So the way it kind of works for me, generally speaking, I physically see them. But sometimes Kelly will be like, I didn't see it, I saw it. She'll be pointing their forehead like it's.
I see it in my head. Like you can picture your friends. Yeah.
And that'll happen to me sometimes. You'll notice her running the walls on occasion. Sometimes I'll just be staring at the ground. The old YMCA in Rock Island is kind of the one I'm thinking of. But basically, everybody's curious there, and they're always peeking out of doors. And visually, I mean, I'm getting used to seeing things, but it's still fucking spooky.
Yeah.
So just to avoid that kind of interaction, I will spend some amount of time staring at the ground. So I don't know if that's necessarily a disadvantage. But yeah, there's definitely times where it's a bit much.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. Definitely. I mean, because also I thought, and it kind of leads into the next question, because Darren was asking what location was the toughest on both of us, that made it a hard night. The location that was hardest on me, unfortunately, Chris wasn't with me for that investigation, but the location that's been hardest on me is Villisca by far. And it's because anybody who's been to Villisca, and for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what Villisca is, because I forget we're going to have people listening who aren't familiar. Villisca is this little bitty speck of a town in western Iowa that on the night of June 9th into the morning of June 10th, 1912, somebody either broke into the home or was waiting in the home when this family came home from a church event. It was a set of parents, their 4 kids, and then they had 2 young girls spending the night at the house as well. And somebody killed them all with an axe in their sleep, and it has never been solved. Now, this location has got just tremendously icky energy. I don't even know how to explain it other than that. It's so heavy.
It just feels gross.
Yeah, it's so heavy. But both times I've been there and spent a significant amount of times there, when the murders started, and it was the same time at night both times, I see it. It's like a movie playing for me.
And you didn't see things.
I see it in my head. But it's like I'm remembering a movie playing in my head, but I'm seeing all of the details, and it's too much. It was too much. Not that I wouldn't go back, because I do want to go back sometime with you to see what we experienced together, but that was the toughest night that I've had. It wasn't one that we had together, though.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever had a rough one together. For me, I'm actually working on a book about it, but I spent 5 days alone in the Edinburgh Manor, and that was just overall just a huge physical, mental, psychic overload.
Yeah.
But there have been kind of rougher times, so I have no doubt in the extent of Kelly's abilities, but sometimes it just makes me uncomfortable.
That's what I was just going to say too.
For me, it's weird when she does channeling, but I was thinking in particular, we had done an investigation at the Grand Opera House in Dubuque, and me being a visual guy, I want to see as much as I possibly can, so I have a tendency to perch myself in these weird vantage points.
And me being the sense person, I want to be right in the middle of it where I can sit and feel things out.
So I'm up in the balcony area, and I'm watching people walk through the aisles, and there's this dude up there with me, the guy who would collect tickets. I'm guessing way back in the day, judging by how he was dressed. But anyways, she starts interacting with this guy on stage.
I'm sitting down in the middle of the stage, just sitting right in the middle of the stage. And after I'd been sitting there for a little while, I started seeing this guy kind of looking out at me from behind a curtain off to my left-hand side.
So she starts kind of interacting, and he's not... you continue from your angle, because I'll explain why it was difficult for me.
He wasn't charging me, but he was just getting more agitated that I was there. And he just kind of kept, the more that I tried to talk to him, the more agitated he'd get. And he just kept taking a step closer and a step closer and a step closer. And there was just a little bit more aggression every time that he started walking towards me. And it was almost like an animal stalking his prey. He'd take 3 steps and then he'd turn around and back up a step. And then he'd take 3 steps and turn around and back up a step, and I'm like...
And honestly, it looked like aggressive male behavior.
Yeah, and honestly, I got uncomfortable enough that I stood up. Which normally I don't back down from him, but yeah, it was starting to feel very aggressive.
And I was basically sitting up in my little perch area, pretty much just having to watch this kind of unfold. And for anybody who knows me, I am ferociously protective of the people I care about, and yeah, it got to the point where I was bolting down the aisle, and to get to the stage from there, you have to go down these weird little side staircases, and I didn't care for that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too. Probably the hardest, toughest thing about us investigating together is having to sit back and let him do his thing and let him experience what he's experienced, and trying to gauge when is the right time for me to step in.
Have I ever had one of those?
Well, because I guess I'm thinking like Shaler. When we were up in the corner in Shaler, I know you can see him, and I know you can see his physical, but I can feel his emotions.
Well, I can feel
how aggressive he's getting, and I knew that he was getting ready to charge, and you just kind of kept going at him, and I'm like, I was ready to say, stop.
I feel like that's almost more of a dude thing at that point.
And it is, but that's my mama bear thing too, that I protect the people I love, and it's like, no, you need to back off, you need to, and just, yeah, it's hard to not want to throw a bubble around you and cut people's energy off from you when you're interacting, if I think that it's not safe. But I trust you. And so it's a reminder to myself that no, he's got this, and God help the day we ever have to interact and where I throw my bubble, whether you want it or not, you know, I mean, and or where you charge some invisible scene thing. So it's bound to happen eventually. We'll try to get through a couple more questions here. I know we're a little over an hour already. That's gone pretty fast. So, isn't it? What time is it?
It's 8:55.
Oh, I thought you showed me it was a little after 9. Oh, my God.
So Shay wants to know how we'll both use our abilities on the show and investigations. Well, for the show, I hate to break it to you, Shay, all we're going to do is fuck up your stuff. Neither one of us have any luck with electronics in some respect or another. She actually breaks electronic devices, and for being a millennial, me and technology just don't see eye to eye.
I'm just kind of scrolling through questions, guys, and I'm seeing everybody's questions. I don't want to ignore any, but I know that
I'm actually I was working on taking notes of previous questions.
Yeah,
so
definitely,
one of these
so we can
days
answer them.
just do a missed questions show. So
yeah. So Nico had an interesting question. When you hear voices, are they different individual voices, or are they the same voice tone to you? So do you, when there's different spirits that are interacting with you, do you get a different feeling from that?
So for me, whenever I've heard a spirit interact, it's a different person. I'm not being patched through like so-and-so says this.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, they're just there. I just happen to be able to hear them at that time.
Yeah. When it's different for me. It depends on if it's a psychic message. If it's an intuitive message, then it is something that I'm just being told or something that I just know, and it comes to me like a thought. So I may know something about Shay, but I didn't hear it in Shay's voice, obviously, because Shay's still alive. But when I'm actually communicating with a spirit, I hear their voice, and I can hear the resonance to it. So like sometimes I'll get these gentlemen that'll come through that have got that really deep baritone rattling voice, and it rattles me as they're talking, and it's just kind of like, ooh, that's a weird sensation. I absolutely hear the different voices. So that's part of what I think helps connect when I am doing a reading for someone. Because I can tell them, this is what they look like. This is what their voice sounds like. This is the type of person that they were. Just to kind of help validate that I'm actually talking to who they think I'm talking to. So, if you get a chance to take Annabelle to an investigation to see what would happen, would you take her? That's a big hell yes.
Yeah, definitely.
I know we had a couple questions about what's our type of experiments that we like to do, and what's one that we haven't done that we would want to. I think probably the best experiment that we do, the one that we've had probably the best luck on together, has got to be the Estes method. We've just had really, really good luck when we do that.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just a combination of, I don't know how to say this without it sounding egotistical, so please don't take it that way. I try not to be an egotistical person, but I wonder if it's a combination of, because I can talk to them and say, hey, it's okay, come talk to us, tell Chris the answers, and then you just being that receptive, friendly, welcoming person that they're comfortable giving you the messages, so it just...
We're that fucking good.
I don't know about that, but I don't know. We've just had really good luck with that one. I'm excited to keep trying the crack and dangle and see if we can't get some stuff out of that.
Anything that's kind of out there for an experiment, I'm usually up to try about anything.
I don't know if there's any experiments that we have talked about doing that we haven't really had a chance to try.
I've always had a weird curiosity with the Gansfeld experiment, one where you play static in your ears and a red on your face and have ping pong balls over your eye. I don't know why. That's just always been
See, and I guess I
something
think
I've
of
been
that like
curious
the
to try.
Estes method, though. I mean, that sounds similar, so I don't know that you'd have that different of an experience for that.
But it's not playing like sweeping stations. It's not a
Yeah.
like ITC
It's
device.
just noise.
It's straight white noise, and the idea is like overall sensory deprivation will increase any ESP type abilities that a person might have. It was originally used to help like transmit messages.
Yeah.
Was the idea.
Yeah. Yes, I almost peed at Penhurst. There's a couple times. Okay, kind of scrolling back up to the top. So, yeah, I can't really think of any of the. There's a lot of places I want to get into to do experiments, because I want to see, especially with us, the way that we work together, if it would be the same or different, or places we've maybe never been. You know, Waverly, like I said, we were supposed to go to Waverly this last year, and freaking plague took over. But Waverly, I'm excited to get back into, because the only one other time that I've been there, it wasn't very.
What is this Goons event?
I have no idea.
Starts with a G. Okay.
I have no idea what they're talking about.
Some of the experiments, Gansfeld, it means whole field in German. Anyways, Waverly Hills, no, I'm hit and miss with being curious about getting there with my abilities, because there's frequent reports of things that crawl on the fucking ceiling, and I'm not up for that yet. I'm not emotionally ready for that.
What do you mean? It's amazing to have things crawl at you down a hallway. No, I want to go back, though, because I just I really didn't have all that much.
It's at the top of my paranormal bucket list. I just always had a weird fascination with it.
And it was pretty early on when I started investigating things with my abilities. So I wondered now, going back, being a little more seasoned, if it would be something different this time. Although I did sit and have a very long conversation with one of the previous patients there. It was pretty fun. She told me how they used to, they'd keep them on the outside of the building when they thought there was a chance that they would get better. But basically when they had given up on you, they'd move you to one of the inside rooms because they wanted to leak the air to the people who had a chance. So she was telling me I got moved to an inside room, and that's when I knew I was dying, for sure. But there was no more hope. It's like, that's just sad, you know. But anywho, some of the places I want to go, I want to go back to Penhurst, you know. But part of that is, and I worry about some of the places I want to go, if I'm going to be able to rein in the, oh my God, I'm here, and actually investigate. Because Penhurst, I had a really hard time with that. I had a hard time not being awestruck with where I was and actually focusing enough to investigate. I just wanted to feel it all and hear it all, and I'd forget, oh shoot, I should be gathering some evidence, you know.
Gathering what?
Data.
Gathering what?
Evidence, Shay. I was gathering evidence.
Well, this was the first and last episode of the Traveler's Moon podcast.
I love you, Shay. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and just kind of stray away from questions at this point. Like we said, Chris was making notes.
I'm taking notes.
Questions.
And if we missed your question, eventually we'd, I don't know, kind of like the idea of doing like a missed questions show.
Yeah. So kind of to talk about what we're thinking about for shows going forward. I know we introduced ourselves, but we really didn't talk a whole lot about what we are kind of thinking this show is going to be. You know, we are wanting to do just a mixture of everything, kind of like our introduction said. You know, we're going to talk about haunted locations and psychics and mediums and shamanism and
folklore and
all that other weird shit.
And all that other weird shit.
So we'll kind of bounce back and forth. We'll have episodes where it's just Chris and I, and we'll be talking about particular subjects. But we'll do the typical, you know, bringing on guests and having them talk about their expertise or locations or whatever the case may be.
She's expertise too. Oh my God.
You tell me Dan's not an expert on the Hinsdale House.
The history of the Hinsdale House, yes.
Yes. It's his expertise on the Hinsdale house.
Just the idea of paranormal expert is like my eyes, no exaggeration, twitching right now.
He's not a paranormal expert. He's a Hinsdale expert.
Are you making a segue into what you can expect next from the Travelers Moon podcast?
That's kind of where I was headed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, next week, if you haven't figured it out already, our guest is going to be the one and only Mr. Daniel Class, owner of the Haunted Hinsdale House in Hinsdale, New York. He is a paranormal investigator. He is part of Ghost Finders. He has done a ton of things on Vidi. He's just kind of an all-around cool guy and just a really, really good friend. So we are excited to have him on the show. So that will be December 16th. Our show's we're going to do every other week for our show. Just schedule-wise, we thought that would probably be best, because jobs and stuff like that. So we're going to do every other week. So December 16th, our guest will be Daniel Class. And then the show after that.
Actually, I noticed in the comments, Nico said we'd like to hit hard on topics, really dig in.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the next show is going to be, where we'll be really digging into Ouija boards.
Yes. I've wanted to do a show on Ouija boards forever because I think that it is such a controversial topic. And everybody's got some really strong opinions on them. So definitely excited to do a show about that. We'll share some history about them, share some experiences with them.
Actually, that's going to be a tricky show.
Yeah, or a lack of experience with them.
I have never used a Ouija board.
I think we should
because I'm a good Christian boy.
Oh, bullshit. I think we should fix that before the show. How fun would that be to be able to come on the show next time, before that show, and say that you had just had your first experience using one? How cool would that be?
I don't know, you just got me into seances, and those are scary for me.
We did.
Not actually scary, but like it's one of those new things for me. Which I'm sure if we end up playing around with a Ouija board at some point, we'll.
But yeah, we're gonna do that. So be prepared with your questions, or if you guys have questions that you're not comfortable asking in chat that night, you're welcome to send Travelers Moon a message, and we'll answer it during the show.
Send us a message. You mean there's a place they can find us? These segues are happening so smoothly.
I'm like, don't go there yet. Are we ready to be done?
I think so.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say, guys, is one of the things that we're going to do too is, and I don't know if we wanted to just post a message about this or announce it. I guess I hadn't talked to you about this, but we're going to do a ghost stories show also. And what we'd like to do
it's an intro of ghost stories.
Yeah, so we're going to, we'll gather ghost stories. You guys are welcome to submit your own ghost stories to us. Yeah. And we'll give you contact info for that here in just a minute. But we're going to not only share our experiences and stories we've heard from other people. A
little bit of other people. So the idea was kind of, so if you guys out there right now have a good ghost story that you want to share.
And would share it on air.
Yeah, or, we always have the option to keep people anonymous.
Absolutely.
Either write in or I guess writing in is probably going to be the best option.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, we would like just the chance to have someone else's ghost story told aside from our own.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we kind of break it down a little bit from our perspective. We thought that'd be kind of a fun episode to set up.
So for those who would like to submit a story and or follow us and ask us questions for future shows, where can they find us?
You're going to slide into our DMs.
That sounds dirty.
Well, that's because, generally speaking, it is. You slide into our DMs. You can do that on Facebook. If you look up Travelers Moon on Facebook, I don't think there's another Travelers Moon out there, but just look for our faces and you can find it. Or you can find us on Instagram at, Travelers Moon was taken for Instagram, so it's at Travelers Moon Para on Instagram, and we are on Twitter. I think we've got a whole 4 followers, and 2 of them are us.
So follow us, guys.
So yes, I'm using like our shout outs on these things.
Shay must be one of them.
Oh, Shay's one of them. Shay's one of the
we
4,
love
5.
Shay.
We're using. I've been kind of curious to not start following people just to see like what accumulates just from word of mouth with this show.
Yeah. Well, and we haven't had them out there very long, and we haven't done a great job promoting them. So.
But that's at Traveler's Moon.
So Twitter is at Traveler's Moon.
Moon.
Instagram is at Traveler's Moon Para. And Facebook is Traveler's Moon. If for some reason you can't find us on one of those, you can look us up individually under the Paranomad, Chris Nielsen, or Kelly McCarville Moonspinner. And also, if you want to share one of your ghost stories with us to potentially share on the air on a later show, you can shoot us an email at travelersmoonpara@gmail.com. Obviously, there's no apostrophe, not a parenthesis.
No, there's not in it anyways.
Yeah, because you can't have that in emails. So, travelersmoonpara@gmail.com. I can't talk. So much for a podcast host. I can't freaking talk. So yeah, is there anywhere else they can follow us?
I mean, if they want the address and they got a decent pair of binoculars.
Ew. That's just creepy.
Yeah, that's following, right?
That's stalking.
Okay, so it's no different than what people are doing online right now. It's just less like there, and for some reason it's better.
Okay. If you'd like to stalk us, please listen to one of the many ways that we gave you, and we'll appreciate it. No, but like we kind of said at the beginning of this, guys, we know a lot of you guys have followed us in different ways before when we were doing our different podcasts and our investigations and working together for the last couple of years and even before that. We just want to say a huge thank you for everybody who's stuck with us this entire time and continue to support us. And we look forward to hopefully providing some entertainment for you guys every other Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Shay's time, and other times other people's
It's Mountain
times.
Time. It's 8 p.m.
I don't know. I can't keep track. I keep track of
It's an
me
hour
and
ahead.
Shay because that's what we got to do here. But yeah, definitely. Becca, you can stalk us anytime you want. We randomly come out and tromp around your property, so it seems fair. Yeah. Anything else?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. Thank you so much, you guys. We hope you had a great time. I had fun.
Had a fun time.
We will be back next time, December 16th.
Not next week, the week after.
I almost said next week. I caught myself.
Oh,
next
Don't
time.
do that.
I know. Next show is December 16th, again, where our guest will be Mr. Daniel Class. And we will talk to you all then. Have a great night, everybody. Bye.
I blew the microphone a kiss. Love you guys.